In today's video, I want to talk to you about fresh SMP versus healed SMP and everything in between. My name's Will Quay. I'm a clinical trichologist and specialist scalp micropigmentation artist, helping you guys suffering with hair loss. Okay, so fresh SMP versus healed SMP. What does that mean? So if you're looking into SMP as a solution for your hair loss, you might be wondering, or you might be seeing a lot of content out there, photos, before and afters, reels, videos, YouTube videos on people that have had SMP, clinics that are showing their work. Now, a lot of the time, what you're gonna see is what I call fresh SMP. So after they've had their first, second, or possibly third session of SMP, you're going to be seeing the results straight after that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, and it does look great, but you just need to understand the difference between what fresh SMP looks like and healed SMP. And when I say healed, you know, anything from 2 weeks and beyond. Ideally, we like to, explain this a little further down the line. So in the examples that I'm going to show today, we're going to show you fresh SMP after 3 sessions and then the healed results after 1 year. So you can really see the difference between how it looks when it's first done to how it looks fully healed. Now, before we get into the examples, I just want to let you know that when you first get your SMP done, literally like getting your after photos done after you've had your treatment, this is the point where your SMP is going to look its most vibrant, its most bold. Now, the reason for that is that although we're implanting pigment or ink into the scalp, into the dermal layer, there's still going to be a visual pigment sitting on top of the scalp. Now, that's going to be like that when you first get your SMP done because the skin layers haven't regenerated yet. So it's not all fully underneath the skin. You're gonna see it slightly on top of the skin too. Now that's why it looks its most darkest and most vibrant when you first get it done. Now, I personally think, the videos and the reels and the befores and the afters straight away, they do look great. They really do. But it looks the best once it's healed. Now, we can't always portray how good it looks once it's healed because when it's fresh sitting on top of the scalp, the camera just picks it up a little bit better. So when you see the healed results, they don't look as sharp, they don't look as vivid, slightly blurry in comparison to the tight, neat impression as when it's first getting done. Now, if you get your SMP done by a reputable artist that knows what he's doing, like myself, we're putting them impressions to last. We want them as solid as possible, right? Now, when your SMP heals over time, you still want to be able to see those impressions, albeit a little bit lighter and not as sharp, but you should still be able to see those impressions. I'm gonna say once your SMP's healed, you're probably looking at around a 30% reduction in how dark it was when you first get it done. I'm jumping around here a little bit in this video, but when you first get it done, it may be a bit of a shock. You're like, oh, it looks so bold, but it really does die down over time. And if you're someone that is getting a top up or a touch up in a year or 2 years time, by that point comes around, you may forget what it was like when you first got your SMP done. So don't panic. You just got to take yourself back to where you first were when you got it done and know that everything's going to be okay. It's going to be its most boldest and then it dies down nice. So when researching scalp micropigmentation, SMP for yourself and you're thinking about getting it done, just be aware that, listen, I'm not about to call anyone out online and say, this person does this, that person does that. All I will say is do your research properly, thoroughly, have a real good look at the photos and the videos, right? Because unless you're like a video editor or a photo editor or, you're really up on content, you may not know what's real and what's not, and there's a lot of fake BS out there. Now, again, I don't want to touch on this too much, but just make sure that when you're viewing someone's portfolio that they're not turning the sharpness up on the photos. They're not trying to get rid of any blemishes, trying to tidy it up. Now, our portfolio, listen, it's not going to be as sharp and as good as a GQ magazine, for example. But what I do know is that everything we put out in our portfolio for our befores and afters, on our websites, on our socials, they are as they come, straight off the camera. No editing when it comes to before and after. Don't get me wrong, when we're doing our reels and stuff like that, we have to do transitions and stuff because it's more of a show of what's going on in the clinic. But purely before and afters, no editing. Now that's important because some people can make their pages look fancy and great, but the reality is you want to see what will I look like when I get this done. So we try to give you the best opportunity we can to show you that. So another thing to keep a watch out for is obviously fresh results. Sometimes when you're looking at them, the scalp itself might appear a little bit inflamed, a little bit red. That's when you know, okay, this is a fresh result as opposed to a healed result. So that's another thing I would say to keep a watch out for. So again, touching on how we view SMP, we're always looking for the healed result. And again, in our opinion, when you're walking around, living your lives, doing all the normal things you do, this is when it looks its most undetectable, because that's what we want. We don't want it to be people looking at you and wondering what you've had done. Now, once the inflammation has gone down, the redness has gone down after 24, 48 hours, that starts to come into effect, and the longer it goes on, the better it gets. Again, in our humble opinion, sometimes it doesn't portray as well on camera. The fresh results just look, but we do put healed results on there because that is what you're after to see what it's going to look like in years to come. So I'm now going to show you an example of one of my clients who had his SMP done. Firstly, I'm going to show you his fresh SMP results after 3 sessions, and then I'm going to show you his results a year later. Once I've showed you the examples of fresh SMP as opposed to healed SMP, I'm then going to cover some key points, some key factors which I feel you need to know when researching and comparing fresh SMP to healed SMP. So this is my client Lawrence, who's had 3 sessions of SMP. He's actually got a bit of a longer story when it comes to his SMP, which I'll explain in another video. But long story short, he had his SMP done elsewhere. It wasn't what he wanted. He had it lasered off, and then he come to us to get it fixed. I'll explain that in another video. So this is Lawrence after his 3 sessions, so fresh SMP, as we're sort of referring to. As you can see in this video now that I'm going to drop, you can see the healed SMP sitting underneath the skin, and then what you can see, all the darker impressions are what is fresh from the 3rd session. So you can see the difference there. It really is quite bold, and you can see how dark the 3rd session impressions are. Although they are darker, we are still going darker with our pigment on this 1st session anyway. So when it does heal, it will heal darker than the ones you see in the 2nd and 1st session. But you can see the difference between fresh and healed. I think he's looking amazing. I'm really, really happy with how this one turned out, and I'm pleased for him that he got to where he needed to be after such an ordeal with his first SMP. And again, this goes back to the point of doing your research. Listen to what I'm saying and make sure you do your research properly. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a photo of the same chap, and this is a year on. Again, I don't think the camera's going to pick this up, so I'll overlay it, but this is a photo of him a year on. And now what I'm going to show you a video of his SMP. Now the final session, you can see we went a fair amount darker than the 2nd session, so they still look pretty vivid, to me. So Lawrence actually came in, he wanted a top up after a year, but he wanted me to have a look at it first, so we did. Now, when I had a look at it, again, same goes to you guys watching this video now. If you've had a treatment by me, or you're thinking about having a treatment and or want a top up, if I don't think you need it, I'll just tell you. Now, with Lawrence, yeah, we could have maybe thrown a little bit in there, but realistically, it's only been a year. I can still see the impressions solid. There's still a lot of space there for future top-ups. I would like to see that 3rd session impressions lighten off a little bit more before we need to go over the 1st or the 2nd session impressions for his top-up. But as you can see, when I zoom in, and I will zoom in on my healed results, some people don't. They stand a million miles away. And if you're looking at a clinic that only shows healed results standing a million miles away, again, me personally, that would be a red flag. It's just not as sharp, but in my opinion, it's good, it's real, it's reality, it's honest, it's what you need to see. You guys need to see this. When he came in the clinic, I was like Cheshire cat, buzzing, like smile from ear to ear, because it looks so good. And then when I'm standing in front of him like a metre or 2 meters away, like I'm never going to be like, up in his face like that, you know, and no one's going to be up in your face like that. But we know that if someone is up in your face like that, they're not going to know what's going on. But when I'm standing at a normal, respectable, personal space distance, it looks good, man. It just looks like he's shaved his hair. So I think, why mess around with it? This is looking good. So we leave it. You know, there is some slight imperfections there, but the imperfections is what makes it perfect. You don't want it perfect, because that's when people are gonna ask questions, you know? Trust me. So I'm buzzing with this one. So I thought I'd show you this as an example so you can see what to expect, you know, a year on. Now, this is just one example. I will do other videos along our journey. You know, if you keep up with us and following us, there'll be other videos with other clients of mine who their heel result might be slightly different. They may have experienced further fading. Some people retain the pigment really well. Some people, it just fades out quicker. That's just luck of the draw, just how your body's working, how your immune system is, how, you know, the external lifestyle environment is for you personally. We can't say exactly what's going to happen. Everyone's different, but this is just this example. So this would be, in my opinion, an ideal example. Okay, so here are my key points when considering fresh SMP to healed SMP. Number one, you just need to have a realistic expectation on what we can achieve. Now, we can't just go super dark, you know, and expect it to stay how it stays when you first finish your SMP, i.e. fresh results. It's just not gonna be like that. You're gonna experience some sort of fading. As soon as the skin starts to regenerate and it sits under the skin, it's gonna appear a little bit lighter. We can't just keep going darker. We have to match your skin tone. So you have to just have realistic expectations on that. Again, we're not recreating hair, we're recreating the illusion of a hair follicle. So just make sure you've got your expectations aligned. So point number two, trust the process. I have done a video on this. I will pop it up here or just search on our library and you will find it. Yeah, but please trust the process. You will experience some fading as you are healing, some more than others, but if you follow our aftercare guidance, which you get after every session, that will ensure that your SMP will heal to the best of your personal ability. Okay, so just follow the aftercare, all good. Point number three, it's at its darkest when it's fresh in comparison to when it's healed. Remember that. Point number four, there may be touch-ups required just to perfect the treatment after it's healed. Now, pretty much 95% of our clients, 3 sessions and we're good to go. But you might be one of those 5% that, you know, it's just taking a little bit longer. When you book a treatment with us, you know, that 4th session, if it's needed, if I feel it's needed, is included. So just bear that in mind. You may need a perfection session. It's not over till Willy Boy sings. I haven't really got a point number 5, but what I will do is finish off and just say, just do your research. If you've got any questions regarding fresh SMP to healed SMP, please drop them in the comments below or message us directly. You can find all of our details on www.scalpnation.co.uk. We're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube. Just reach out and I'll personally come back to you and answer any questions you may have. See you on the next one.